Morning.
My name is Letsoalo. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Cross-Border Road Transport Agency in South Africa. Program Director, thank you very much to the High Commissioner, to the host, Toyin, and the fellow speakers that are here today. One needs to point a context, I think, in investments. And I happen to also have a background in financial markets, having marketed South African paper all over the world at the tender age of 21. That was about, 22 years ago. And Program Director was egged by a couple of things, and I think at times we say things simply because sometimes we don't have the information. Africa is ready for business. We are no longer ready for handovers. All the pictures you are going to see here today, they are from Africa. This is Africa. It's not some pictures you are going to see from somewhere else. So South Africa, contrary to popular belief, is not a jungle. Contrary to popular belief, Africa is not infested with wars. Contrary to popular belief, Africans are very rich people. What we are here for today is to actually come and share with us what we are having. We are not a basket case. We are not looking for donations. We are looking for investments. I'm saying that because I hear that we don't have laws, we don't have rules, we don't have all those things. And I will tell you for sure that in the area of cross-border, certainly in the area of the continental free trade, we have those rules, we have those laws. I sit here, I have a thing called COMESA EAC SADC, Tripartite Cross-Border Road Transport Model Law. Here it is. What is a model law? In Africa, we are trying to bridge the divide of having 55 different laws, and we want to have model laws that all of us would have. But of course, they are going to be adjusted in line with country requirements for sovereignty, risk, and all those things. Do we have payment systems? We do. South Africa has got the second most effective financial markets in the world. The best banking system after Switzerland. And our neighboring countries in the SADC have piggybacked on that. And we have a lot of stock exchanges there that does things. We heard about the motoring industry. BMWs are produced in South Africa. Mercedes-Benz is produced in South Africa. And a lot of other places all over the continent. I want your investment taste buds to start to feel Africa for what it is. And that's what I'm going to take you through today. And I'm going to end up with what we call the Linking Africa Plan, because we firmly believe that for us to be able to do what this market's potential is, there's a lot of things that we need to do. Like in every place, there's going to be risks. I just don't believe that the risks are greater in Africa than anywhere else. I don't think so. If you thought about 20 years ago, if people talked about China, people will tell you about child labor, They'll tell you about all those things. Today, China plus all the other East Asian nations are doing very, very well, and they're actually the manufacturing capital of the world. Africa is next. My colleague was talking about the number of parts that are coming out of Taiwan, coming there. The question one must ask themselves is, where did the minerals come from to manufacture those parts? I bet you 80% of them are coming from Africa. Now, what I'm telling you is the plan we have. I stand here on behalf of the regulators in Africa. We're becoming smart regulators. We understand the market. We're educated people, most of us been trained from the West, but we are back home and we are doing a lot of work. Now, let's look at Africa. Africa is the home of opportunity and the center of the world. As I said, all these other pictures you're going to be seeing here is Africa. Different places in Africa. It's a beautiful place. It's also a very wealthy place. Nature has blessed us. We are now blessing ourselves with the kind of infrastructure we are building in Africa. Africa for years has experienced what we call an economic bypass. If you look at that, you will see that most of these trades that happen, they bypass this continent. It's the center of the world. There has been flows, global trade flows that have been going across all over, but South Africa there has not taken advantage of that. But I can show you that all these trades that are happening, they are happening at the backs of minerals from Africa. For centuries immemorial, Europe, the Americas, and everywhere have benefited from what we have, which is the wealth of Africa. Are we that poor? We are the burgeoning middle class. I personally drive a Porsche. So there's nothing in Africa that we don't have. So we are saying, come and share with us in what we have, and we'll tell you what we are doing to remove those barriers. And I do not think that the barriers are bigger. The biggest risk that people talked about, they said we start. The practitioner said it's culture. Go to the Chinese market, the same thing happens. Go to Japan, the same thing happens. Culture is everywhere. You come to America, they've got their own culture. Africa has got its own culture as well. Now what I'm trying to show you here is, we've got high-income countries in Africa. We've got areas where we've got weak institutions. We have recognized that. And we are building those institutions through the Africa Free Trade Agreements and all the other things that you are going to see, including the Linking Africa plan that we have. We are building a market. We are building a market of 1.27 billion people. Not all of them poor. Majority may be poor, but majority that are moving up. Like the East Asian countries 20 years ago, the same thing that is happening here. We now are bombarded every other day in the media about people that are migrating out of Africa. Most of them trying to look for a better place to go, simply because opportunities are not there. But as regulators and governments in Africa, with our business, we are trying to build this market to make sure that we create opportunities for our people to stay at home and make sure that they don't build elsewhere, but they build from home. As I told you, we have been given, these are minerals. These are minerals that we have, you can see all over Africa. We are at the cusp of two revolutions that are coming in the area of transport, through the electric vehicle, and the energy. And I'm going to show you where Africa plays in this market. There's a place here in the middle there. Now, I was telling someone that in Antwerp, there is a thing called the Diamond District. I don't know how many of them produce diamonds. All these minerals that are traded all over the world, majority of them are from this continent. Now, we're at the cusp of a revolution. We are in the revolution, they say artificial intelligence, all those things. Most of the minerals that are going to build this revolution are from Africa, especially the cobalt market. I'm going to show you. 60% of the world endowment in cobalt comes from a country in Africa called the Democratic Republic of Congo. So we are in this business for sustainable development. This is where we are going. Okay? Now, in the energy market, the biggest problem that we are experiencing is the cost of storage of renewable energy or any kind of energy. Now, if you think about it, what renewable energy storage and storage is going to do for the automotive market and what it's going to do for the energy market is going to solve a lot of our problems as we move forward in the whole world. But here are the problems. They say these are elephants in the room that we must deal with. The DRC we are talking about is war-torn in the main. It has got falling infrastructure. And there is issues that China has experienced in the past, which is child labor. But we are correcting that. Here are the figures. I heard my colleague was speaking about the internal combustion engine, and that it has got 30,000 parts. The electric vehicle is going to have close to about 100 parts, but this is where the biggest market for us becomes. There. So if we think industrialization, if we think we want to build where the resources are and we want to manufacture from there, suddenly Africa becomes a player. The biggest component of an electric vehicle is the battery pack, which is 50% of the costs. What does it mean? It means if you were in Africa, you have infrastructure to build a battery plant. That's where your original equipment manufacturers are going to be based, because 50% of the goods are there. We're exactly there. So we are linking Africa to the vehicle or automatic global value chain. Now, if 50% of the costs are there, much more of these other components as well are produced using the minerals in that continent. Currently, all the gigafactories that we have for electric cells that are used in electric vehicle, 90% of them are in the East. And the East does not have this endowment. It doesn't have these minerals we have. And therefore, we are in the space and we want to play in the space. So this is just for the European market, what they demand over the years and towards 2040. This is from a report by McKinsey. I think I must recognize that as well as the research that they've done. Look at that. The internal combustion engine is going to be reducing over the next 20 years. In the EU, by 2030, there won't be an internal combustion engine car that is going to be running on EU roads. There you are. You'll see here. China is having about a target of 2 million electric vehicles sold per annum by 2020. By 2030, the 12 large cities representing about 32 million people commit no ICE vehicles in their streets by 2030. By 2040, France, Italy, United Kingdom plan a target of 100% zero-emission vehicles. These are electric vehicles. And there is a suspicion that by 2030, most of those vehicles will be driving themselves. Now, what then happens in Africa? We are building ports because we are ready for that. We are doing 27 million TEUs there, about 2.5 there. Most of these areas, we have started to see expansion on the ports. We have spent a lot of money in this regard, and we continue to spend money to make sure that we are ready for this market. You said about 6 countries that are going to experience that. We think that is going to be more. But much more is going to have to come out of Africa's industrialization to feed all these things that are needed in the whole world. This is just one market. I said we are not a basket case, and we are not. Because we are connected to the world, which is why you will see much more. This is the ICT global infrastructure and what connects us to that. The FDI trends has not been mostly in Africa because of those things, much more in South Africa, Ethiopia, Egypt, and all the others have experienced a bit more FDI than others, but that's the kind of market we want to collapse. There is no market with 57 million people, I keep on saying. South Africa has got only 57 million people. So Africa is working to ensure that we integrate all this market and make sure that the investors benefit from this. Now, how do we do this from a transport perspective? Because that's where we come from. To align what we need to be doing to make sure that we integrate the whole of this market through all these corridors by 2040. You would see some of this to link this whole of Africa. This is the infrastructure investment that we are going to be doing over the years. We are targeting 2040, but our real target to integrate this whole market is what we call Agenda 2063. I think most people should be reading that to make sure that you are aware of the developments that are happening in this market. This is Kigali in 2040. That's a plan. So that's an indication. This is Nairobi. Now, not in the future. So there are no elephants walking around here and all that. It's Africa. This is a train meant for South Africa, passengers. This is maintenance of airplanes in Africa. We don't actually bring them to America for them to be sorted out. They are sorted by African engineers in Africa, and they do fly all over the world. So we have the capacity to be able to industrialize as we move forward. So we are dismantling what we call non-trade barriers through this, and we are going to show you as we go along. So here is what we need to be doing. About 30% of African countries are landlocked. Cross-border regulated multilateral protocols. We have got a regulatory environment that is fragmented. We have vehicle standards and drivers training and standards and equipment and vehicles that may vary from country to country. Road transport is a dominant carrier of this. We are trying to change this, but for a long time it's going to be still. For us to do inter-Africa trade as well, we need to make sure that our roads are also there. The major borders operate 24 hours and most operating until 22 hours. We want to run it throughout so that people can move with ease. Importation of the road involves about 8 regulatory authorities stationed at the border on the other side of these areas. And transport costs contribute up to 40% of goods traded in Southern Africa, and it is something that happens all over the world, all over the continent. Now, this in the past 10 years is the shift of concentration index of the main regional economic communities. We have seen a regression here. Someone was talking about ECOWAS yesterday. Look at where they are. They are doing very, very well in terms of this calculation of the diversification of the concentration of all those things. So the majority of all these regional economic communities are doing very, very well in terms of what we should be doing as we move forward. Now, here is the Linking Africa plan. We have what we call the East African Community, the Common Market for Eastern and South African COMESA, and then SADC. We have linked all that. We have got already a free trade agreement for these 3 markets here that has been there before this one came into force, and this plan is linking there. Transport, trade, and industrialization, as we said. Look at this fragmentation. But what do you want to see? There is ECOWAS. There is another one there. You can see where we are going. All this. But what is interesting all here? Look at that. That's the EU. Taking advantage of what Africa has got to offer. And today we are saying to you, you could be anywhere here or there, but the aim is to link all this to be a bigger market through this regional economic communities. So the Linking Africa plan seeks to enhance cross-border road transport, intra-Africa trade, regional integration, economic development for Africa, and ultimately stimulate industrialization, as I said. Our biggest problem has been here. So we don't trade with ourselves for most of the time, which works about 16 to 19%. If you go to the EU, that goes up to 80%. So our current share of Africa in global trade is only 3% compared to what we had in the 1950s. But that's what we are seeking to change with this Linking Africa plan. So the Linking Africa plan deals with issues of cross-border. They deal with issues about trade issues and industrialization issues. And I think I've already dealt with these issues. The vision. Where do we see ourselves? We want to be at the center of the global value chains as Africa. And we invite you to come and do this with us. Not as a handover, not as handouts, not that we are going to give you what you are not entitled to, but when you invest, you are sure to get your returns as we move forward. We need to address issues of infrastructure that we have. There is a lot of funds that are put together in this regard. We are working together with private sector, transport operators, cargo operators, traders, freight forwarders, among others, to expand markets beyond the national boundary and increase intra-Africa trade, but also look for collaborative and coordinated approaches in this regard. We have outlined specific programs to operationalize what we call the COMESA EAC SADC Tripartite Free Trade Agreement, together with what was presented yesterday with this African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And you can see, in this regard, we have got about 23 countries that have already signed into this of the multilateral cross-border road transport agreement that we have. Now, here are the areas that we need investments in. As we said, maintenance of bridges, interchange facilities, the feasibility designs and implementation, inlet border posts that we have, programs at different levels, feasibility design. You will see them in the next slides. Our ports, investments around the ports that we have, Maputo, Walvis Bay. It includes port expansion and capacity improvement and handling equipment in other areas. And we have trade facilitation infrastructure that we have. Here are the programs. As I said, I've heard that much movement has not happened. Capacity building, public regulatory institution, trade and transport facilitation structures. Our ministers are all there. Our regulators are all there. Trade and custom regulators, we have given ourselves 2 to 5 years time frame to do that. Harmonization, you can see, direct involvement of member states, domestication of this, 2 to 3 years. Harmonization of cross-border trade regulatory and legislative instrument, standard border crossing, procedure systems, custom ICT connectivity, that is 2 to 3 years. Implementation, accreditation, risk-based, here is for business people, preferred traveler business people. This is going to be done in the next 18 to 24 months. So we are saying, come to Africa. We're going to show you around, but as well allow you to be able to move in the market by yourself with our help. The border modernization, one-stop border post, single window systems. This is done with ministers of trade, technical committees are there. These are domesticated 2 to 3 years. Establishment and maintenance of data hubs and enhanced trade and transport information availability to traders, transport operators and investors, and that is already there. And it's in the next 6 months, we're going to be seeing traction in this area. The other program, accelerate liberalization of cross-border, direct involvement, repeal of bilateral agreements. That was talked about in the previous discussion. 2 years is the timeline. Vehicle tracking, geofencing system, just to see where these vehicles are at any point in time to make sure that there is facilitation of trade right there. Explore innovation funding models, national policy to guarantee security for investments. This is an area that we are working on. Construction of road transport network, there are missing links, bridges and all that, 2 to 10 years. Boosting in Africa through establishment of a global continental value chain to promote diversification and beneficiation, 4 to 5 years. And we have got this, and this is happening already. In a year's time, we will be rolling that out. So these are areas of investment. These are areas where we're going to be moving forward in. So the implementation approach, we have adopted programs. We have got a thing called a Cross-Border Transport Regulators Forum where we meet. There's a Council of Ministers responsible for transport in the region. Ministers' Council to engage Ministers in trade and economic development in the region. Corridor National Steering Committees to establish and coordinate. And we elevate this to the RECs in Africa through a consultative engagement. And this is all coordinated through the African Union and the engagement with financial institutions to be conducted as we move forward. The other areas is that Link Africa Plan program should be coordinated at RC level, and we have our own annual performance plan that we move towards. So this is not just talk, it's actually work that is happening in the region. The outcomes that we expect: improving African economies through improved inter-Africa international trade between the continent and the rest of the world, industrialization of the continent, that lead to greater linking between various disparate economies in Africa and ultimately creating a bigger and stronger continental economy, enhancing the alignment of the initiative, improving the transport system and efficiencies, and also helping smaller economies to move. Here are the investment opportunities: ports, roads, interchange facilities, ICT systems, corridor IT systems, and what we call smart corridors, in line with the link in the plan. The trade opportunities are there on the custom ICT systems and capacity building and infrastructure, industrial investment through beneficiation of raw materials, the manufacturing sector, special economic zones, infrastructure, and technology. So the incentives are there for you to come and invest in Africa. We are waiting to receive you. We want to roll out the red carpet for you to come and bring your money. Thank you very much.